Glad you're with us this afternoon. Good afternoon. ANC councillors in Ekurhuleni did not arrive at the swearing-in of the announced mayoral committee there today. The EFF and the ANC have been allocated all of the mayoral committee positions after the African Independence Congress's Sivuyile and Ngodwana was elected as mayor last week. The EFF received 5 positions. The ANC were allocated the other 4. Govan Whittles joins us now. Govan, good afternoon to you. This is surprising. I have not heard of this before, where a mayor makes an announcement. These are the people on the mayoral committee. They announce the swearing-in ceremony. What happened after that?
Well, then the ANC councillors didn't show up, and the positions and the names of these MAYCO members were announced in a statement. Usually there's a full briefing with the MAYCO members flagging the mayor, and that's how they're unveiled. This time around, the city of Ekurhuleni, on the formal letterhead, sends out a statement saying these are the mayoral positions for which I've allocated these councillors. Immediately, what became evident is that the EFF has taken a majority here. They're in charge of all of the important positions within the council. Granted, the ANC still getting allocated positions such as the HR services, the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, but the EFF's councillors allocated the positions for finance, for waste management, for infrastructure, as well as for water services. The ANC's councillors allocated the positions for economic development, but the EFF councillors were there at the swearing-in. They've been officially sworn in as MAYCO members. They're part of the Ekurhuleni government. The trick is that now, because the ANC guys didn't arrive, this is still a minority government, and of course there are questions around what will happen to service delivery in the portfolios where the ANC councillors didn't arrive. The ANC's official comment here, saying that there are outstanding matters which need to be resolved. They're also not speaking about this. Another first would be the mayor announcing a mayoral committee and then being unavailable for interviews after that when the ANC councillors don't arrive.
So in Ekurhuleni you've got an AIC mayor and you've got an EFF mayoral committee, and that's it?
That's it. And you have 4 positions that are vacant. And right now you have negotiations for those positions that are ongoing after the names for those positions had already been announced. What you also have here is the ANC and the EFF seemingly having differing opinions about the composition of the mayoral committee. This after both of them sketched what they thought it would look like once the mayoral committee was composed. What's important to note here, Tanya Campbell was removed through a majority of way more than 50%. That's because all the minority parties took part in the election, and of course the ANC and the EFF together already have more than 50%, so they were always going to get the bulk share of the mayoral committee. But when they presented themselves immediately after the election, they spoke about consultation across the spectrum. And let's take a look at what the EFF and the ANC had to say at that briefing after the mayor was elected.
And yes, we will be engaging with all political organizations because we understand that this is a government or a governance of minorities who form part of a majority. You will have seen that the election outcome was over 120 plus in terms of the support base. It's going to require a lot of engagements across caucuses. It's going to require extensive relations and continuous relations, that is, amongst ourselves as political organizations that are like-minded. And we see the element of being like-minded because we could approach this particular council sitting in a unified and in a unison way.
Commit as the African National Congress to work with the collective that collaborated to produce this outcome. And as the mayor has indicated, further engagements will take place to deal with the totality of the formation of the leadership of the executive.
Well, that was the ANC a week ago, a no-show today. Govan, the minority parties in Ekurhuleni, sometimes they can play a pivotal role. Where are they now?
They're out of government. Well, they hold some of the Section 79 chairpersons' positions. These are committees designed to give oversight to the mayoral committee positions. But they were expecting to be in government. That's at least the impression that they created after their mayor, they call them their mayor, Sivuyile and Ngodwana from the AIC, because they believed that the election of Ngodwana would usher in not only a government of local unity, where the ANC and EFF would work together, but also a government where what they called like-minded parties would group together and have all of their manifestos implemented through the mayor. Now, the AIC, EFF and ANC are the only ones that will have their manifestos implemented. And from the start, the coalition of the Super 7 minority parties were grateful that they had an opportunity to be elected mayor, but they also created some expectation that they would have a voice here. Let's take a look at what the leader of the so-called Super 7 minority parties had to say and how he framed the election of Sivuyile and Ngodwana from the AIC.
We are under no illusion to both the ANC and the EFF that we had a right really to the position, and that we would even undermine the majority that is represented in council. So we don't take this opportunity for granted. And as the leader of the Super 7 and the 7 parties that are presented here, we want to thank you for entrusting us with this huge responsibility. And we will endeavor to make sure that we do not disappoint. And we will work and we will consult and make sure that that which we represent reflects also the constituencies that you represent in council. So thank you very much. We thank you that you deliver this opportunity to us. Executive Mayor, you have the full support of the Super 7. We are fully behind you.
Govan, this is all quite extraordinary, but wasn't there a deal? I mean, was it Julius Malema who said it? It might have been. That, in fact, if they were going to sort out mayors, the EFF would get the mayoralty in Ekurhuleni with the support of the ANC, and the ANC would get the mayoralty of Joburg with the support of the EFF. Then it seems they decided they can't vote for each other as mayors. But if you look at the logic of that deal, that's sort of what's happened with the mayoral committee positions, isn't it?
That does seem to be how they've divvied up. Julius Malema actually saying that on this channel that that's the agreement that they had come to. What's interesting here is the split that we saw happening in the city of Johannesburg was that all the powerful positions like transport, finance, waste management, water, were split between the two parties. Here we've seen the EFF get a hold of a number of the influential positions where I suppose the biggest share of the budget for the city is allocated. And it looked like the implementation of the party's manifestos would depend on which positions the party got within the mayoral committee. What's important to note that in Ekurhuleni, the EFF also holds the speaker's position in council. So right now, it's not the biggest party in Ekurhuleni, but it certainly does hold all of the most powerful positions in Ekurhuleni, bar the executive mayor position. And what we've seen is that the executive mayor is willing to help the EFF get into power to the positions that it prefers. This is the story of the EFF winning power in the way that it wanted to win it. I don't see any losses incurred by the EFF in the negotiations here for these mayoral positions. It'll be interesting to see how the ANC responds. Without that ANC vote in council, the EFF and the AIC wouldn't have a majority. But, of course, the way that the EFF got the ANC to stay out of power last time was by voting for the DA. Will the ANC vote for Tanya Campbell to come back to spite the EFF? That would be quite something. But we've seen stranger things happen in Ekurhuleni.
Govan Whittles, thank you very much indeed. Finger on what may be one of the most important political stories right now, the relationship between the ANC and the EFF.